What is up, everybody? My name is BobaTalks and welcome to my Gotham mid-season finale review. Now this was a great way to leave the mid-season off because there was a lot of payoffs. There was a lot of, moments leading up to be continued in the second half of season 4, and I'm sure you know what I'm on about. But also there was a couple of things which I thought might happen that did happen. And even though I was right about these things happening, I didn't really want it to happen. And yes, I'm talking about the Falcone bit. But before I get into this breakdown and review, guys, if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe for more Gotham content just like this, because now we're on the off season. I will be doing theory videos, news updates, you name it. And if you do go on to enjoy this video, be sure to hit that like button. So in this episode, Carmine Falcone came to town and Sofia took herself and the Sirens there. Now, I actually quite like this scene because, we also had characters meeting for the first time in a very, very long time. So, that moment between Barbara and Falcone. But I was exactly right in my theory, and I'm not rubbing this in, and I'm not going to say the whole entirety of the theory right now that panned out. But I was right in the terms of the backstory behind it. We saw Carmine Falcone talking to Sofia very, very harshly. We got reminded of things like the reason why he didn't want Sofia to go to Gotham is because he thought that she wasn't ready. He reiterated to Sofia that he didn't even want Gotham. Someone else can have it because he's dying and he just wants his family, I guess. And the main point I'm getting down to here in this scene, I thought it was brilliant, and I am really glad that the motives for Sofia panned out from what we learned in this scene, because Carmine really just spoke to her like complete crap. She wasn't ready. He even slapped her or hit her at one point, and that was enough for me to know what exactly was going to happen a little bit later on in this episode. But the main reason he came back to town is, well, because Sofia went to Gotham, and we actually got the answer, and I wanted this answer as well. If you remember from my previous video, I was talking about, I kind of wanted Falcone to chase up about Sofia since she left against his blessing, and he said he was actually intrigued, I think, to see what actually unfolds with Sofia going to Gotham against his wishes. But it kind of went as he expected, and she wasn't ready, and yeah, he wanted her out of Gotham fast. And that is when we found out that Oswald was there all along. Now, you could argue that Falcone could, crush Penguin because things didn't always end well between them, despite Oswald learning a lot. But as I said, and as Carmine Falcone said, he's out the game, and if anything, the only reason he's dragging Sofia out of this is because she was going to lose. And for all you Barbara Jim fans, there may be a little Easter eggy glimpse of hope yet, because when Carmine Falcone mentioned about sleeping with Jim in terms of Sofia, obviously she was just like, I'm sorry, what? I thought that was a nice little add-in. Those two are never properly ruled off, I guess. I just don't think it would work out, but little things like that, they always have this chemistry, I think, Barbara and Jim, because they were together. So that was a nice little drop there, and I appreciate that. But in this episode as well, Jim meets with Carmine, and I found this kind of both awkward and very intriguing. Awkward because obviously he slept with his daughter, and not only did he kill his son, that was awkward in itself. They actually kissed in front of Carmine. I was like, oh my god, not as, this only bad, but Carmine's obviously very old-fashioned, and I'm just surprised that even went down. I'm just surprised Jim even kind of kissed back. But we learn that things are still very bitter between Jim and Carmine, more for Carmine, obviously, even though we know that Carmine Falcone knew that Mario was infected with the Tetch virus. He said, I'm glad I never killed you, because killing you would have been a kindness. He also has other lines like, you have no idea what you've brought to this city. When you find out the truth, it will destroy you. Now, what do you think he means by that? Do you think just the war and everything as a result of what Jim has done to get, the whole Pax Penguina out of Gotham? And as a result, this brought Sofia in and all kinds of mess. And I guess, does he mean when Jim is learning the truth of what kind of ripple effect he has put out in Gotham? Or do you think it's something else? I would love to know your thoughts on that. I think it might be what I just mentioned, but you never know. I think maybe between Falcone and Jim, obviously Falcone's had almost 30 years of ruling Gotham, and he's probably learned a lot of things and done a lot of things that have caused ripple effects for himself, that have kind of made him realize truths about himself that have also destroyed Carmine. So I guess it's kind of a bit of a prophecy for Jim, because he knows he's gonna and has made decisions that will cause the exact same things for Jim. But we're leading up to the very big moment in the episode, which, I think quite a few of us saw coming. And I just want to mention what Sofia said, first of all, which basically confirmed it for me, if not before that, when Sofia got hit by Carmine. But she said the line, everything I did for your love. And that's exactly, I felt like it was kind of predictable. Everything she did was for Falcone's love. And if she wasn't going to get that love after everything, well, I didn't think things would end too well for Carmine. in Sofia's mind. And that actually happened. We saw this van come along, a massive, like, drive-by happen, and Carmine got shot. So did Sofia, but we got that payoff later, and I'll talk a little bit about that specific moment with that specific character a little further down the line in this video. But yes, guys, Carmine Falcone is dead, and yes, I know, is anyone truly ever dead in Gotham? But I feel like, come on, if they brought Carmine Falcone back from the dead, then even I would be like, God damn it. Now, very swiftly after this, we did have the funeral, and one of you guys commented yesterday, I believe, or a couple of days ago, about, are they actually going to do the funeral this quick? And I thought maybe I did jump the gun. I thought maybe, of course, Carmine Falcone was going to die, but really was this funeral scene in this episode, and I was actually kind of stepping back a little bit, but no, all of this was contained in this episode, and despite how much they had to include in this mid-season finale, they did it at quite a good pace. We had the funeral, and we had, poor Victor Zsasz. I actually felt really sorry for Zsasz. You really don't see emotion from that guy or any kind of sentimentality, but we obviously had that moment where he went up to Carmine's coffin, and he kind of paid his respects by giving him one of his bullets, because he was his hitman, essentially, and then he stormed out. And between Victor and Penguin, there was a lot of tension, because Victor blames Penguin in this episode for killing Carmine. He doesn't quite believe him. Then we also see later in the episode as well that he swears his loyalties pretty much by, kneeling to Sofia Falcone, as she, after all this funeral stuff, basically becomes, the sole and only heir to the Falcone name in Gotham, and now Penguin's kind of out of the picture. And this was very predictable anyway, like, father dies, Penguin's kind of in a bit of a kerfuffle with the GCPD. Sofia will go straight up to rising up in Gotham as the new crime mob gangster bossy thingy-mabobby. But it was nice to see Harvey again in the funeral, and I like the strategy they kind of had for, getting Penguin, because they realized, well, Jim said he wanted to do it by the book. It's very important to do it that way, and they didn't have any evidence really for Penguin killing Carmine. But Harvey was basically like, we need to get him to do something that is arrestable, like for almost force his hand, so we can actually finally get Penguin for once and for all. And we got another emphasis on the whole Jim Gordon ripple effect. Even Harvey says, this is all on you ever since you wanted to get rid of Pax Penguina, and everything that's happened, all the cops dying and stuff like that, is on you, so finish what you started. And that is exactly what Jim set out to do. And this actually sparked up something very interesting, which quite a lot of us also suspected in this episode as well. But I'll get to that in a second, because I really want to talk about this moment. Now, I do give the occasional moment to this because Gotham have done this more and more recently, and that is because even the executive producers said that Jim is going to take further and further steps towards his commissionership this season. And that moment when Penguin goes to the GCPD, absolutely demanding Sofia, he wants Sofia now. Everything is properly out in the open. It's almost open war already. And Jim was just standing there, proper Jim Gordon I know from the comic books, and I love these moments. He really suits Captain, and I know a lot of people were talking about his trench coat as well. That definitely does foreshadow his, future, I think, brownish trench coat. Obviously, there's kind of different variations of it, and he's worn trenchy kind of coats before, but this one, I think he has worn it before, but he doesn't obviously wear it all the time. Whenever he kind of wears this, it's like he's got his commissioner hat on. But, whether we're talking about the lines where he says, nobody gets to decide who lives and dies in Gotham, I'm just upholding the law. That is Jim mother effing Gordon right there. And also, just a final note on that, all the cops as well, he has completely influenced them to not be corrupt. And this is the very start, before Batman, it really was just Jim. He was the one guy fighting. He was such a tiny little light. Batman's the big light in Gotham, technically, even though he's the Dark Knight. But Jim was the very small little seed of light in Gotham, absolutely getting drowned by all the corruption before Batman came along. And I feel like this is what we're seeing. He's finally getting some more good cops on his side, and just taking a step by step further and further and closer to his commissionership and commissioner side of himself. And it's just, I feel like he's come such a long way since season 1, and arguably some people say a bit too soon. But, I guess the way they've played it out in the past 4 seasons, he has kind of earned his way there. But let's go back to that thing we were talking about a second ago, of this new approach Jim will be taking to take down the Penguin, sort of force his hand to make something he does arrestable. So what he wanted to do is actually arrest Penguin for the crime of killing Martine, and that all came from Sofia. This is when quite a big twist happened, and I didn't necessarily expect this. I felt like maybe it was coming, because obviously we had the sad Victor, but what am I talking about? I'm talking about Victor actually saying, yes, he did kill the boy, because obviously Penguin was denying it, and he was almost laughing completely in Jim's face, and even I was to a degree. It's like, well, Martine isn't dead. Zsasz didn't have his back, and that is what got Penguin arrested for killing a child. And I love the face that Jim had as well when Sofia told him about that. Even Jim was extremely surprised. That he was like, what? In reaction to Oswald killing a kid. I think he didn't even think Oswald would do something like that. And even though he didn't, it was, enough to compel him to be like, right, I'm marching down there and arresting him. I know I've already talked about Victor a little bit already, but I do have to say he was brilliant in this episode. That last scene as well, when, Jim went up to Victor and said, this doesn't give you a free pass. And it looked like Victor was about to explode. And I don't think it was just, having to deal with the fact that he was kind of condemning Penguin himself, but also just the fact that he's been holding his rage in probably for how sentimental Falcone was actually to him, or he just never realized it before, and now it's all coming out in his mind. And it was just like, not now, Jim. Like, if Jim would have pressed one more little bit, he might have actually just shot him, regardless of what the repercussions would be. So Victor swaps sides, the Sirens get their club back, and that's the thing within itself I'm not so sure about. I just hope they keep the flipping club this time. If not, otherwise I don't want it to go back, from the Sirens to Penguin to the Sirens, and then when Penguin comes out of Arkham, you could get the freaking club back again. It's just like, just keep the Iceberg Lounge, but I guess they're not, because, Barbara was on about getting a decorator in, but it's just like, for crying out loud, stuff like this I don't particularly care for in terms of the writing and the repetition of some of the storylines they keep repeating. Now, we barely got any Nygma in this episode, but all I want to say about this is I feel extremely sorry for Edward. Now, I'm not on about the Riddler. I feel sorry for Edward Nygma, and the Riddler was tormenting him. He's not completely taken control yet. I think that is inevitable, but we learned one very interesting thing, and I can kind of say this is almost confirmed, because they definitely wouldn't have included it unless it was a thing. But, the Riddler was taking the piss out of himself, should I say, Nygma, for falling in love with Lee. It's like, you stupid idiot or something like that. You're in love with the Doctor, or Dr. Lee Tompkins. Now, that is a very big surprise. But we can't forget that the Edward version, the very, very season 1 version of Ed, was a nice man. Like, he really was. So this is going to be very interesting to see what happens with the whole feelings he has for Dr. Lee Tompkins. So then we had Tabitha literally beating the memory back into Butch. Now, there wasn't any success really of that, and I kind of felt sorry for Grundy after all that beating, but just as she left, conveniently, he's just like, what the hell has happened to me? So that's obviously going to be picked up in the second half of season 4, and I'm looking forward to that. I think Grundy's going to be a very big mixed bag of himself, Grundy, and Butch again. So we're going to have a smart-esque Grundy, but I don't know how. I'm really happy about Butch coming back in a way, technically, but I don't know how good I feel about that at the same time, because Grundy is meant to be kind of stupid in the comics, but at the same time, who cares? I think we've learned by now that Gotham is its own new mixed bag of canon. So let's talk about that final scene with Jim and Sofia, but someone else was also there at the very beginning, Professor Pig, Laszlo Valentine, and honestly, it's I don't know what to think about that. I really hope that because of his, I don't know how to explain this, that is one of his metal plates took the bullet. I don't know, maybe he was faking dead, but really, are you going to really kill off Professor Pig? Now, yes, nobody stays dead in Gotham, technically. I honestly think that's one of its biggest weaknesses about the show. I do think he could actually be dead, but, he's too much of a big character, so even if we don't get those future seasons, he will be coming back one day. I don't think it would be someone else taking up the Pig mantle. I think it will be Laszlo. I thought that was a cool scene anyway. We got the explainer for how Sofia Falcone got, precisionally shot, in a place where she wouldn't be damaged. And obviously, saying this as well, we learned that Sofia did kill her father, Carmine Falcone. And who called it? No, I don't mean to rub it in, but I just love it, when you actually do have a theory that pans out. Even though I kind of thought it was obvious, but some people thought maybe it was Martine's funeral or something like that. But I was very happy, because even I was actually starting to second guess myself. I was like, I think Carmine Falcone's definitely going to die, but actually could it have been Sofia? But I thought it really did add up, because we got all the answers, trying to get her father's love and all this and that, and it just added up. and that is why she killed him. And we also got the whole revenge for Mario line chucked in there. Now, I don't know how well that actually worked out in the whole storyline. I felt like they just chucked it in there as an excuse or in addition to Sofia's motives, but because, you know, her leaving Jim in charge and having to live with all the things that he's done as a result of all of this, and being her bitch basically, was kind of punishment and revenge enough. And yet again, I think for the third time this episode, it got emphasized to Jim that his grudge with Penguin and everything that he's done is the one thing that got all the cops killed and Sofia to bring Pig into town. All of this was a result of Jim, and that really got nailed into Jim this episode because Sofia said it yet again. Now, second to last, guys, even though Harvey came back this episode and Jim even pointed out that your leave is almost up, he left his badge and gun in the office. Now, what does this mean? I'm gonna have to look into it a bit more. I don't know if it's already out there on the internet right now, but is Donald Logue leaving Gotham? I don't know. I really hope not. I seriously hope not. Obviously, Gotham can survive without Bullock returning, at least for a while. We always know in the story or in the comics that he is there in the future, but I don't know. Maybe it's just even more time off for the actor, but we're gonna have to wait and see if he does return. And lastly, guys, let's talk about that scene with Jerome and Penguin. Obviously, Penguin was absolutely kicking off, and I don't blame him. Even though he is obviously this crime boss, I love Penguin. For, you know, obviously being put into Arkham for the death of Martine, who is very much so alive out there, and I think will be coming back into Gotham. And because of all the noise he's making, we hear someone basically say, "Shut the hell up," and, you know, maybe we could help each other out. And that is none other than Jerome. And he was very, I don't know what to say. I kind of knew it would be literally like 20 seconds. I do really, really like the makeup and the scars. I think they've actually healed a lot better than what I thought. I was worried they were going to be massive lumps of, you know, scar tissue, but it's actually more subtle than what I thought. He has actually got some eyeshadow there as well, which I do love because it's more of the Heath Ledger-y look. I don't know if they're explaining that actually as eyeshadow in the show, but that doesn't really matter. But it is darker there rather than his just old skin, which I thought might have been a reason why it was slightly darker. But these two are going to partner up, and obviously we see a lot more in the trailer, and I will break that trailer down, guys, so be sure to look out for that video either today or tomorrow. Don't worry, it will be coming out, but there isn't too much more to say about this scene other than that their partnership and their alliance within Arkham Asylum will be happening very, very soon. But overall, guys, I thought this mid-season finale was pretty good, even though there was a couple of things I didn't like happening, you know, whether that's, you know, Carmine Falcone actually dying, and I definitely, you know, he's not going to come back, and if they did that, I would be really pissed off, and it would just be stupid, because I do think one of the biggest weaknesses about the show is the fact that villains or any character can come back like that. I feel like the fact they're owning that publicly, it's more of a thing that they can't really go back on it, so they're just deciding to own it. I'm dead excited for all the setups we got for the next half of the season, whether that's Jim continuing his storyline with Sofia and how the heck is she going to get out of the picture. We've got Jerome and Penguin actually working together in scenes within Arkham there. That's really exciting. And I know I haven't talked about the whole Bruce Alfred thing even at all. That obviously did really make me sad, but I'm just annoyed that this is still continuing, and I know it's going to be resolved probably very quickly within the first episode. I think I've been saying that recently, but I think it will be definitely resolved by the next episode or two. But what more can I say about that? Bruce is being a dick, and it is kind of annoying me now because it's been dragging on a bit too long. I understand why he's doing it at the same time, but I kind of hoped it would have ended with this episode, but no, Alfred got fired and I'm gutted for him. But let me know what you thought of this episode down in the comment section, guys. There's going to be lots of off-season videos, so be sure to be subscribed to this channel if you're brand new, and if you're already subscribed, be sure to hit the notification bell button so you never miss out on a Gotham Season 4 video. If you want to support this channel a bit more, I now have a Patreon which I very recently released, so be sure to go ahead and check that out. If you want to stay a little bit more up to date with me personally, you can do so by following me on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. The link should be popping up on the screen around here or in the description below. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will be doing a trailer breakdown for the next half of the season very soon. Just keep your eyes out for it. And other than that, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.